We're going to a period in which either we do the kinds of things I indicated in summary to you today, or else what you're going to have is not a government. You're going to have something like a Nazi regime. Maybe not initially at the surface. What you're going to have is a government which cannot pass legislation of meaningful legislation. How does a government which cannot pass meaningful legislation under conditions of crisis govern? They govern in every case in known history by what's known as crisis management. In other words, just like the Reichstagsfire in Germany, how did that happen?
What's the motto of the Obama administration?
Their motto is ship guns into Mexico and frame the Second Amendment?
No, the other one. Never let a good crisis go to waste.
Never allow a good crisis to go to waste when it's an opportunity to do things that you have stopped yourself from doing before.
What happens in terms of creating wars is a technique, a mind manipulation technique that I've called in my books problem, reaction, solution. And it works like this. First of all, you create the problem, but you get someone else to be blamed for it. You then report that problem through the media in the way you want it reported. You get the public to react to your problem by saying something must be done, this can't go on, what are they going to do about it? And at that point, they, who have covertly created the problem and blame someone else, who've gleaned that reaction of do something, then offer the solution to the problems they have created.
This crisis provides the opportunity for us, as I would say, the opportunity to do things that you could not do before. The good news, I suppose, if you want to see a silver lining, is the problems are big enough that they lend themselves to ideas from both parties for the solution.
And that's how it's always sold, and they sell it with a good packaging. But the people selling this New World Order...
And of course, they would never create that crisis either. They would never fabricate that crisis, just like Obama did with the health care debate. Oh, everybody's dying, and if we don't get this to them right now, the people are going to continue to die. And oh, we've got to do this bailout right now, or our economy is going to go to crap.
Or there's guns in Mexico. Oh, we got to restrict the Second Amendment. By the way, I shipped them down there.
Yeah, and he has his BATF shipping them down there, and that's how ridiculous and crazy this has gotten.
I met with the president in the Oval Office. Here's what the president said. The problem is, he said, if we secure the border, then you all won't have any reason to support comprehensive immigration reform.
Don't you see what they're doing, folks? They're not crisis managing. They're crisis leveraging.
What they do is they manipulate an emotional crisis, a national emotional crisis, to further an ideological agenda which involves the evaporation, the slow disintegration of your civil rights, your liberties, your ability to live and let live.
Because everything they do is stage a crisis, offer a solution. It's the oldest trick in the book, problem, reaction, solution. It's the heart of it. It's how they sell everything else.
If I've made any contribution at all in the last 20 years, I think one of the things that has had the biggest impact was to invent the term problem, reaction, solution for something that was known before as the Hegelian dialectic. This is the 33rd degree of Freemasonry, by the way. They have a motto, ordo ab chaos, order out of chaos. That is problem, reaction, solution. Creating the problem, then offering the solution to it. And it describes a technique of mass manipulation that is devastatingly simple and devastatingly effective.
All right, let me start getting into the all-out assault on the Second Amendment. Number one, they get up on television and they say, look, we just want reasonable gun control. Nobody wants your weapons. Then you read what the Attorney General has written, the UN, Dianne Feinstein, Barbara Boxer, Nancy Pelosi, Rahm Emanuel, and they want the total abolition. They want all guns taken. And the very same thing's been done in country after country after country. First they register, then they confiscate.
Now, what do we got to do? Because let's be, and Sarah's right, people's intimidation on this issue is not defined by just Republicans. There are Democrats intimidated by this issue. Wrongly, but intimidated, and they think their politics and their community is such that they can't do this. The truth is, what we need again to get moving on this legislation is put together a crime strategy like we had before, which is why we passed the bill today on the cops, putting money back into putting police officers on there, getting voices for change, and then making sure that we have a president I cannot put my partisanship aside, a Democratic president who will take that office and use it to protect the streets and the kids that grow up on those streets and make sure that we once again have an assault weapon ban, a Brady bill with the full force of the law on the land, because we need somebody in the Oval Office that moves this Congress.
You want to change society in a way that if you did it openly and had a meeting and said, right, well, tell the public this is what we're going to do, you know that you would get a massive public reaction against what you want. So you don't do it openly. You play this technique. Stage one, you create a problem. It could be a terrorist attack, it could be a war, it could be a government collapse, it could be a run on a currency, it could be a credit crunch, rising food prices, rising mortgages. Anything that will give you the opportunity to install the solution to that problem that will advance your agenda.
What a mountain of problems for our new president. The problems are so enormous that even Obama's political rivals may give him the room he needs to do big things. Will this man, the new president of the United States, get a break in terms of partisan politics because the challenges are so big?
Chris, the mantra we're hearing out of the transition in Chicago is never let a big crisis go to waste, by which they mean that they think that the straits that we're in right now are going to give them cover not only to have a very big agenda coming out of the gates, but also a certain amount of cover with both the right and the left to give them time to grapple with these issues.
Absolutely, but here's the key to this. Rahm Emanuel, Chief of Staff.
Now, the one thing I know with absolute certainty, having served two great presidents, is that in the next 4 years, an unforeseen crisis, challenge, or conflict is going to show up and seize this country.
Order out of chaos. Problem, reaction, solution. You try manipulating harmony, very difficult. You try manipulating chaos, piece of cake. They want chaos.
The Chief of Staff for President Obama is an old friend of mine and my husband's, and was in the White House when Bill was there, and he said, you know, never waste a good crisis.
Just hours after Barack Obama became president-elect of the United States, we're starting to get some word on who will be joining him in the White House. Democratic officials say Obama has offered Illinois Representative Rahm Emanuel the position of Chief of Staff.
It's beginning to look more and more like the real president of the United States is not Barack Obama, but the prima ballerina Mossad agent, Rahm Emanuel.
Hey, Rahm. I'm good.
He is a total anti-gunner. He wants to ban Americans owning firearms, basically. He spearheaded the assault weapons ban. He spearheaded NAFTA and GATT. He is the man that gets jobs done. And he has sworn to get our guns.
This year's up. You'll see he's made progress on all four of them. Democratic Party in trouble in the...
Obama's first appointment as son of Zionist terrorists, Rahm Emanuel's father was a member of a militant group that bombed hotels, massacred villagers. Obama picked as a keen supporter of lobbying group aimed at creating militarized youth brigades. He's a huge top gun control guy. He's the head of the youth brigades, helping set that up under Clinton and now under Bush. Again, this is mainstream news, Rolling Stone magazine. In a 1996 re-election of Bill Clinton, Rahm Emanuel was so angry at the president's enemies that he stood up at a celebratory dinner with colleagues in front of the press from the campaign, grabbed a steak knife and began rattling off a list of betrayers, shouting, and you can read the whole Rolling Stone article, just like I was doing, just frothing, dead, dead, dead. Now that's Rolling Stone magazine. You can link through and read it. That's who we're talking. That's who wants your guns.
Emanuel worked in the Clinton administration where he was known as the enforcer. And this time he's in charge of almost everything that moves in the West Wing every day. And that day starts early at 7:03 a.m.
Hey guys, how are you?
He attends the vast majority of the president's meetings.
Have a seat, everybody.
From young staffers to the more seasoned, Rahm Emanuel inspires hard work, loyalty, and it's widely reported fear.
Clinton never told the truth to Emanuel. He constantly cut Rahm out. He was afraid of him.
Who is Rahm Emanuel?
He's the head of the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, and they're like the leadership of the party, and they're the ones that make some of the most important decisions about allocating resources and can we win, can we not win. Congressman, Thank you, sir.
Hey, Eric, how are you?
Thank you for being here today.
Yeah, not a problem. How you doing?
I'm doing well.
I don't want you tonight on TV to be angry.
All right.
Okay, just let's take it down a notch.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, good.
Most of those people in Congress don't have your experience. I'm not asking you to be angry or anything like that, but you can say words and have the courage to say it that we do not have enough people like you right now, and that's why I hope you win. And I'll do everything I can to help you.
Thank you very much.
Apparently, Massa claimed that Rahm came up to him one day in the House locker room, stark naked, started screaming obscenities at him. To which I say, welcome to my world.
You know what this is all about?
No, what is this?
New York congressman says he was confronted in a gym shower by a naked White House chief of staff, Rahm Emanuel, because he wasn't going to vote for the president's budget.
Really?
Let me tell you a story about Rahm Emanuel. I was a congressman in my first 8 weeks, and I was in the congressional gym, and I went down and worked out. I went into the showers, and I'm sitting there showering, naked as a jaybird, and here comes Rahm Emanuel, not even with a towel wrapped around his tush, poking his finger in my chest, yelling at me because I wasn't going to vote for the president's budget. Do you know how awkward it is to have a political argument with a naked man?
Has he ever flashed that little stubby thing at you? That's appalling.
It's ridiculous. But that's, so, by the way, what the heck is he doing in the congressional gym? What the heck is he doing in the congressional gym? He goes there to intimidate members of Congress.
I mean, it's scary that Rahm Emanuel's dad was the head of the eargun terrorists that brought Israel into where they are today, bombing British installations. And that's pretty scary. And that he's an IDF officer. I mean, it's scary knowing that people like Rahm Emanuel will do anything for power if they think they can get away with it.
Rahm Emanuel is son of the devil spawn. He is an individual who would sell his mother to get a vote. He would strap his children to a front end of a steam locomotive.
Rahm Emanuel is a despicable person. Here is the mayor of Chicago, very dangerous person, saying that he wants the American people to not be able to have any input on their guns. Hey, punk, it's called the Second Amendment. Here it is.
One, it's all about criminal access. It's not about gun control, it's about criminal access to guns. That changes the debate. Two, put the police chief and the law enforcement community front and center. Everybody else, from politician to whatever, take a back seat. Because the police chiefs have a credibility and authority and a voice on this.
And now Rahm Emanuel has said citizens aren't even in the discussion about guns, the police are. Well, that's Judge Dredd. I mean, it might as well just become the Soviet Union. Now, by the way, in major polls, 98%, you can pull this up, of police are pro-Second Amendment. Most of the police chiefs are anti-Second Amendment because they're getting federal money. And there's a guy up there who's an Israeli officer, by the way. It's just unbelievable. Saying, well, by the way, our tax money pays to get Israel guns, which I'm all for citizens having guns wherever. You know, Switzerland, Israel, wherever. And then he doesn't want us to have guns. He wants us to be like Chicago, where the citizens don't have guns. What do you think of that?
I think that sucks.
And Obama is making a huge mistake in picking this guy, because whenever he does something this guy doesn't like, he's going to read about it on the front page of the newspaper.
Why am I not shocked to hear people on the other side trash the first thing Obama does
but
and throw down the stairs his appointment?
No, but I'm not talking about this from the point of view of saying he's too radical and too partisan and all of that. I'm not saying that. I'm saying, I mean, that may be true. But I'm saying that you can't have as your chief of staff someone whose primary loyalty is not to you.
And with Israel, you've got a bunch of people in this country who are dual citizens like Rahm Emanuel, who served in the Israeli Air Force, who goes around saying the American people should have to turn in all our guns. That is really offensive.
You have a long record as a strong friend of Israel. You were in the Israeli army. I mean, you have a lifelong commitment. This comes from your family, from your background.
He served with the Israeli Defense Force during Desert Storm. No, he didn't join the American military. He was serving a foreign military.
You were in the Israeli army.
But to now have Rahm Emanuel, whose father was one of the head terrorists that founded Israel, and Rahm Emanuel himself is in the Israeli military, Israeli intelligence, dual citizen.
There is no such thing as dual loyalty. This is a myth. People say, well, you know, the Jewish community has a dual loyalty. That's wrong. Either you're loyal to your country or you're not. There is no duality in that. You cannot be loyal to two countries. Never will Israel agree to have an Israeli support the U.S. the way they expect people in the Jewish community to support Israel.
Look at Rahm Emanuel. I mean, he's served in the Israeli armed forces, not in the American armed forces, and he is easily the second most powerful person in this country. Easily. That's treason.
Given so much as you know about my childhood was here.
President-elect Barack Obama's first appointment, Rahm Emanuel, as White House Chief of Staff, is the son of a member of the Zionist terrorist group Irgun, which was responsible for bombing hotels, marketplaces, and the infamous Deir Yassin massacre, in which hundreds of Palestinian villagers were slaughtered.
Benjamin, the father, I should point out, fought with the Jewish terrorist organization, the Irgun, and what was then the British Mandate of Palestine, and was very much involved in the blowing up of the King David Hotel in Jerusalem, which killed British troops and officials, Arab Palestinians, and Jewish Palestinians.
The King David Hotel.
After a bomb explosion caused by terrorists on the British headquarters at Jerusalem, one entire corner of the King David Hotel, a building of 7 stories, was razed to the ground.
It's amazing, going back to what you said about his Irgun terrorist ties. I mean, this was the group that, isn't it true that they worked with the infamous Stern gang and that they were also involved in the Deir Yassin massacre, which was April 1948, which involved house-to-house slaughtering of Palestinian villagers?
Absolutely, that's also the case. But I was told by somebody whose father was a member of the British forces in Palestine at the time that Benjamin Emanuel was a highly wanted person by the Brits because his specialty was buses, not driving them, not repairing them, but blowing them up, especially buses packed with British military and police officers.
Don't assume it was left by accident. If you see something, say something.
Hi, I'm Janet Napolitano, Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security. If you see something suspicious in the parking lot or in the store, say something immediately. Report suspicious activity to your local police or sheriff.
If you see, hear, or smell something suspicious, report it.
Reporting is easy. Use the web or the phone.
Let law enforcement determine if it's a threat.
And let the experts decide.
In an effort to find terrorists in the United States, people who might be citizens or residents here, has really put together over the last many years since 9/11 an incremental but now a very big change, which is they are asking every law enforcement agency, they're asking businesses, and they'll be asking you to help them report people who are doing things that appear suspicious.
The information goes to so-called fusion centers run by state and local law enforcement. That's where data on suspicious behavior is shared with DHS, the FBI, and other agencies.
An administration that tells Americans to inform on each other to stop terrorism when Obama's right-hand man is the son of a terrorist who liked to blow up buses and hotels. I really can't get over the richness of that.
We have Rahm Emanuel saying, if you're on a no-fly list, you can't buy a gun, you're not part of America. Here it is.
And I am not one far from liking the mixing of politics and policy, but as my old boss used to say, give me that vote and throw me into that briar patch. I'll make politics out of that every day, because if it's between that terrorist list and the NRA, I know where America is going to be every time, and they're going to make the right choice, and we have got to start building on that. That is the right thing to take into the election, and it's the right policy. That if you're on that no-fly list, your access to the right to bear arms is canceled because you're not part of the American family. You don't deserve that right. There is no right for you if you're on that terrorist list.
He's on a TSA watch list, even though Mikey is just 8 years old.
It is now easier to add a name to a terrorist watch list. Just one tip from just one credible source, reportedly enough to have a name placed on the list.
The behaviors they have described as inherently suspicious include things like taking notes,
drawing diagrams, taking measurements, taking photographs or video, which are ubiquitous activities that all of us do.
But terrorists also do that, right?
I'm sure they do, but terrorists also put shoes on. But that doesn't mean that somehow tracking every person who puts shoes on or every person who takes notes or every person who takes photographs is somehow a useful practice.
Know good and well that someday there could be a government in power that is shipping its citizens off for disagreements. There are laws on the books now that characterize who might be a terrorist. Someone missing fingers on their hands is a suspect, according to the Department of Justice. Someone who has guns, someone who has ammunition that is weatherproofed, someone who has more than 7 days of food in their house can be considered a potential terrorist.
He's only 12 years old, but his name is on the TSA's terror watch list. So we get to the airport, wait in a long line, and they tell us that my husband Eddie and I can fly, but our son Alex cannot.
They gave us a redress number, and that's basically about it.
But wait, where do I appeal this? There's no courts anymore, Mac. There's now over 2 million people on the no-fly list. No judge, no jury, no proof, no reason. Members of Congress, Fox News reporters, CNN reporters are critical of TSA. You're put on the no-fly list.
Don't think it can happen to you. It's happening to me.
You are on the watch list.
A watch list? Coincidentally, this all began in May, shortly after I began a series of investigative reports critical of the TSA.
For those of us who aren't on terror watch lists, like the two of us, I mean, do we hopefully. need to... Yeah, hopefully, as far as we know. As far as we know, do we need to be concerned about this kind of thing?
You know, I think so.
They just put you on a no-gun buy list. And now the IRS is saying, no judge, no jury. If you haven't paid what they claim they want or you're even in dispute with them, you can't get on an airplane. And Congress wouldn't pass that law last year. IRS said, we've been told we can just make a rule.